three reasons why I am voting for the Reform Party on July 4th. First up, we've got removing the two-child limit on tax credits and child benefit, which actually pushed around 1 million children into poverty. So I'm glad that Reform is going to remove that cap. Secondly, let's talk about working people. Reform obviously wants to, increase that tax allowance that you start paying tax from 12,000 odd to 20,000, which will help. I think it's like 7 million people that will not pay tax because of this uplift on the allowance. So that is another great policy. And lastly, immigration. I think the only people really that can be trusted are people like Nigel Farage that have been speaking about immigration for 40 years now.
One of my followers commented on this and tagged me and wanted to know, because he quite said, I'm sure you'd agree with the first two policies, obviously not the last, and I'd like to know what you think. Right, and Jordan, for you, I will explain. And all of you, please stick with me, because again, I can't do these. I know you all want me to do these in sound bites and I can't. I need to explain, and then you'll understand. The first thing, brilliant. I agree with removing the bits on tax. That is a brilliant idea, really good one. I don't agree with the tax thing, because it's not been, most of their policies have not been costed. And do you remember what I said about offering mice-free cheese? Well, they're offering mice-free cheese. One of the reasons, and it's one that I struggled with personally, was in order to not tax people under 20 grand, they're going to have to tax people over 20 grand, considerably more. Now, I have absolutely no argument with taxing the living bejesus out of the ultra-rich, largely because they don't actually contribute much of a percentage of their income to tax. And quite frankly, if they want to leave, they're resource heavy. Now, I struggled, for most of my working life, I struggled with earning much over £12,000. I have always been very low income. And the last few years, courtesy of TikTok and a few things, my income has popped up a bit. And all of a sudden, from having to pay maybe a couple of £100 tax, I'm self-employed, so I do a tax return at the end of the year, all of a sudden I'm having to pay tax. Now, something I also didn't know, and I discovered that when you have to pay over a certain amount of tax, and I can't remember what it is now, you don't just pay. What happens is you declare how much you earn that year, and then you have a kind of 8 months to pay it, and it's got to be paid by a certain amount of time. Fine, I've been doing that, been declaring it, and I've been paying £400 or £500. If it was 6, 7, 8, a bit of a, but okay, fine. I did my tax return early. I could save up the money. I could do it. But when you start earning over a certain amount, you have to pay half of next year's tax as well, and then the rest of what they anticipate, and that is so that they smooth you gently into paying more tax, so that people don't suddenly have a bill that they were unused to and couldn't pay. That's a reason for keeping that 20%, that step. It walks people into paying more tax. The last one, and he says about, now obviously we all know my opinion on immigration, and at no point have I denied that every immigrant that comes in is wonderful. I am aware that they are not. And I'm also aware that because of the fact that they are not, and they are going to keep coming, climate change is putting the pressure on, they're going to keep coming, they're not going away, and the boat started after Brexit, I would also remind you, we need to develop a mechanism where we can take immigrants in without these ridiculous things. We can look at them, we can assess them, and we can put them to work. We need to have a method of getting them into this country legally and properly and dealing with them. We need these people. And also, that means that we can, if it's an easier way to come in through the front door than via the people traffickers, who I remind you are criminal murdering bastards, then people will come to the front door and you can treat them humanely and decently, and then if we find people who really have come in illegally and have got horrible records, we can kick them out with impunity because we know these are bad people. That's the first thing. It keeps us safer if we have a pleasant, humane immigration method, all right? And the last one is this. You judge a party by the content of character of the people who are in it. Now, Nigel Farage had his chance for years as an MEP to improve the life of British working people for the better, and he was so busy fighting against his elected position that he didn't turn up for the debates or the votes. He had his chance to make your life better, and he was more more concerned with leaving the EU than he was with making your life better. Then look at the recent Channel 4 thing. These are the kind of people who are attracted to reform. Do you really think that these people, those people you heard, and they are not a minority, there are a lot of people like that signing up to reform, do you think that these people will gladly give money to families who are on their uppers? Are you sure if you think that? Now, on the other hand, okay, fine, I don't think Nigel could be Farage trusted. I wouldn't leave my handbag with him or any of his henchmen unattended, I tell you. But the other thing is this, for all that people talk about Keir Starmer, the man is a good leader and he was a human rights lawyer. Now, I think you can tell a lot by a party by the content of character of the people who sign up to it. And I'm very sorry, but I have seen very few, I'm not saying none, very few reform candidates who I think have the content of character that I would like to see governing this country.